interested to know actually people's thoughts. If you want to drop us an email with whether you've been disappointed by DirectX 10, whether you think it's still going to come good.
If you've played a DX10 better in DX10, I'd like to hear that, because I've not found one yet.
No, it's disappointing. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, but maybe announcing a little bit about Windows 7 is kind of, obviously there are downsides because it implies there is another version of Windows and you might just wait, but at least it doesn't make them look like they've run out of ideas, which maybe was the danger with Vista.
But the worry is, of course, it's making them look like they've got ideas, but it makes it look like they've got ideas from looking at an iPhone and saying, "Oh, isn't that shiny? You can sell that to people and they'll think it's shiny." When really what we want is an operating system that's not 400 times bigger than the one that went before it and only half as quick.
It is worth mentioning that this isn't the first we've seen of Windows 7, because a month or two ago, a Microsoft engineer was demonstrating, I think it was Milestone 1, which is, I think that's pre-beta, pre-alpha, that's very early code.
It means it sort of turns on and...
So they've basically sat down and written a few lines of code, but they were demonstrating a very, very sleek kernel that, was trying to get rid of all the criticism of bloat that they've had in Vista and show how sleek Windows could be. And so they're obviously trying to deal with the innovative criticisms that they don't innovate in Windows Vista, so they've got this touchscreen thing, and that Windows Vista's bloated. And so they've got this kernel that can run independently and it'll support virtualization and things like that.
Yeah.
It would be quite ironic if they actually end up completely reversing the trend and releasing Windows 7 as an ultra stripped down, like low system spec operating system, and thus rendering sort of 10 years of people upgrading hand over fist.
Yeah, all these people install it on your Celeron 3 and go, actually, this is pretty nifty.
This will work on your Dragon 32.
A pig just flew by the window.
Right, okay, and there we will bring to a close discussion of Windows 7, I think. So that's kind of the news. We're not going to recap pretty much everything that's happened since February, because that's quite a lot. If you want to keep up to date with things, the website's updated with news stories daily, and actually we're going to have quite a few updates next week, depending on when this podcast is released, but sort of from June the 1st onwards, 2nd onwards, because James and Clive will actually be at Computex, which is a massive trade show in Taipei, Taiwan, which is ground zero for PC hardware, pretty much. So Clive will be on the podcast later on to talk about that. So for the moment, we're going to move on to the Guess the Game Music competition. I'd completely forgotten what game music it was in the last podcast, so I actually had to listen to it again. Unfortunately, it wasn't an obscure one, because if it was one of those bleepy ones, I don't think I would know quite what it was. But it was actually Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. Now, when I put it in the podcast, I thought it was from Guitar Hero 3, but I got a load of answers pointing out it's actually also in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So we're going to have two winners, especially because it's been ages since the last podcast. So congratulations to Paul Larkins for guessing Guitar Hero 3 and Andrew Jackson for GTA. So Paul's getting UT3 and Andrew Pirates of the Burning Sea, and plus some Foxconn t-shirts as well, because we've got those in the office at the moment. So next time round, the prize is going to be a copy of the double pack of City of Heroes and Villains and a t-shirt from the same game. So what we're going to do is play some music from a popular game of note. Have a listen, tell us what you think it is by dropping us an email to podcast@custompc.co.uk. So that was this episode's Guess the Game music. That didn't sound very good. Anyway, let's crack on. So if you actually know what game that was from, drop us an email, podcast@custompc.co.uk, and you could win a copy of City of Heroes and Villains and a t-shirt. So now we're going to go and do the games chart, our regular look at the top 10 selling games in UK retail, and possibly with some download stuff thrown in as well. No one is actually quite sure what else would count. So number 10, Civilization 4 Complete, which is presumably with the add-on packs and stuff. I've still not played Civ 4, and I sort of keep thinking I really should get around to it, but I'm not prepared to lose that much time on it.
It's a travesty.
Is it good?
It's brilliant. It's a great game.
I heard they managed to find a way of making a Civ game that actually has reasonably high system requirements as well, which is...
Yes, that's true, actually. I mean, I certainly couldn't install it on a 2-year-old laptop at all. So, or maybe 10-year-old laptop, I don't know.
Right, moving on. Number 9, Sims 2.
Yay for Sims.
I was being quiet, so we're moving on.
Oh,
Number 8, World of Warcraft Battle Chest.
it's still there.
It is still there.
How? It's still there. No one knows.
Battle Chest reminds me of, I don't know what it was, but you used to get these action figures and you could sort of rotate the chest round, and so one bit had pristine armour on and one had injuries and stuff.
I remember those. And yeah, and they would just have a damaged chest.
Yeah, and then you have a normal one, so it's this is the Battle Chest.
But I've no idea what they were really called.
No, it makes me think of my 80s childhood. Never mind.
They're probably lots of fun though.
Probably more fun than World of Warcraft Battle Chest. Although, judging by the numbers of people playing it, I don't think so.
Yeah, you'd have to be apparently mad not to like it, because everybody does.
Number 7, Command & Conquer 3, Tiberium Wars. Anyone a big fan of this? It's done amazingly well, because it's in the top 10 as long as, well, not quite as long as The Sims and WoW, but it's sold amazingly well.
It's I always thought it's a bit of a weird one, because I thought, unlike sort of StarCraft, which is the other kind of old school sprite-based RTS game that kind of was quite genre-defining in its time, it hasn't really. I mean, Command & Conquer, it's still, occasionally you'll find people playing the original one for a bit of a laugh. But I mean, StarCraft's still the national sport of Korea. And so, I mean, I always thought it was kind of odd that when Command & Conquer 3 actually came out, it was literally, or it felt literally like a remake of the original. It was very, very similar to the original, and they'd added generic unknown alien race to mess it all up and, throw things around with tentacles and lasers, as is the
want of aliens from outer
it's
space.
Traditional alien pastime. They have Christmas and lasers and stuff.
If aliens ever turned up and didn't do that, people would be really freaked out.
People would not have any clue. If they turn up with tripods and heat beams and things, everyone would know what they were doing. It's like, oh yeah, that's aliens. But yeah, so the Tiberium Wars aliens, nothing particularly amazing about them. But the game's hugely popular and scarily so.
I'm a big Command & Conquer fan. I've spent many a wasted hour playing the previous games, and this latest one, doesn't measure up quite as well, I think, to the others in the series. Generals before it was a very, very good strategy game. Not really very Command & Conquer-y, but it was a very good game. And CNC 3, I find, is just missing a little something to make it a great RTS.
I think that's pretty much the conclusion we've settled on, because we've played the demo and it made a great first impression, because you're like, wow, it's just like Command & Conquer, and then it's just like Command & Conquer with Battlestar Galactica actors instead of
and it's not really. I mean, in some cases you could sort of forgive a franchise for not messing with the core gameplay. But it's not that it's not really messed with the core gameplay. It's just it doesn't feel like they particularly raised their game at all. It's just like, same old, but with 3D graphics.
Yeah. Okay, number 6, a brand new game for us to discuss, Assassin's Creed. So, port of the hugely popular Xbox 360 game, now on the PC. The basic premise of the game is, it's slightly confused and overly complex, but in most of the game you play an assassin in the Middle Ages in the Middle East, wandering around and assassinating people, because at the start of the game you screw up a mission and they sort of force you to prove that you're not a complete jerk.
Technically you don't play him, you play the genetic memories of some
I was going to say that's why it's complex.
Guy in a it's not it's not really that complicated. It's just some guy remembering something his great granddad, who was a strange, crusader kind of assassin-y guy, did.
But it means you get these interlude levels where you're walking around this lab in the future.
Yeah, it's basically like farting around in a medieval Matrix.
Which does ruin the game, I think, because why can't you just be an assassin rather than some memory of an assassin?
I suspect there's probably going to be a reason for it in the inevitable half-dozen sequels. They'll probably be like, oh, now he's an assassin in Japan or something. I don't know. Maybe they'll do something like that.
That sounds horrendously plausible that Assassin's Creed won't be in the Middle East, that it will be you remembering another of your ancestors.
I think also if people hadn't, pointed to the fact that it's got, that it's got a science fiction element to it and it's all that, there's a memory in that, people would have just said it's GTA medieval Syria. Which is basically what it amounts to, roaming around, stabbing people, carrying out little side quests for people.
So the question is, it's been in the charts for quite a few weeks. Does it deserve its place there? Is it worth a purchase?
Personally, I'm not a big fan of it because I mean, it's one of those games where it's a sandbox in that you can roam around and do sandboxy kind of things.